you made mention that is there anything that we can do about it? You see, technology has evolved,
All right.
and if I should say, it has not yet fully ascertained in Ghana yet, but in other parts of the world, in the States and all that, we have a solution that is called CRISPR.
Okay.
Now, this is a genetic retooling to ensure that people who have this condition of SS do not suffer episodes, this SS and its consequences that it brings. But honestly, it is not fully resolved. And number two, the financial burden it can pose on the family is very high. I can even tell you that it could even be more than you actually trying to put up a building or even going for a land to buy and all that. So if that money can be geared towards something more beneficial, the best way is to prevent. So HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, hepatitis B and C, these are also quite serious so far as infections are concerned. So these ones must be screened for would-be couples as pre-medical screening. And also we have the hormonal test. That is mainly for the fertility test. Also, you have to look at your blood group as well. The blood group may not necessarily be about you not giving birth or not being able to give birth or anything, but it is important you know your blood group, especially for the mother or for the woman, so that in terms of pregnancy, it plays a very critical role. And then the information that the health practitioners will get from that can help them to prevent further consequences from a particular kind of.
Hello, viewers. You're welcome back to another amazing episode from our side at Sex in the Temple. Imagine investing in your future together, knowing that you've done everything you can to address concerns about medical issues with you and your partner. I believe that when you sit back and look, because of the effort you have put, you will celebrate that we are starting this journey on a positive note. Today, we're going to talk about premarital medical test. Basically, we're encouraging you to invest on your future together as couples. With me here today, I have Dr. Isaiah Ayin. He's not only a doctor, he's my church elder, so I have to behave myself. He is a clinical specialist in molecular medicine and genetics. He is a lecturer and a clinical researcher at the School of Medical Science, the University of Cape Coast, and Accra College of Medicine, where he teaches medical students and researchers in the area of medical physiology, pathophysiology, and chemical pathology. That's a mouthful, but I know that when we start this conversation, you'll appreciate his background. So, Dr. Isaiah Ayin, my elder, you're welcome. I know you're very busy, but thanks for taking your time to grace our set and to educate us.
Thank you very much.
So, we're going to go straight to the point. Can you just give us an overview of what premarital medical test is and why is it important?
Okay, all right. Good day to your cherished viewers, and I like to say that pre-medical tests are just tests that would-be couples or people who are aspiring to spend the rest of their lives would like to undertake in order to avoid infections or complications or things that may be harmful to both of them or their offspring, so that once they're able to detect these things, they are able to avoid, prevent, or seek early treatment for those conditions. So basically, we do these tests as a way of we being very careful, vigilant about our health, to either avoid taking certain decisions or to know how to manage those situations if they should arise as we spend the rest of our lives together.
That's so true, because sometimes you don't know a person just walking about or just talking or dating, thinking that they look healthy, but there's a potential that though they are healthy, they might carry a certain or have a certain genetical condition that will pose a risk to their unborn child.
Yeah.
So it's important to do that. Okay. So this test, I know there are different forms of tests, but we just wanted to start with maybe, let's say, genetic screening.
Okay.
If we can talk more on that and what needs to be done, and what are the potential risks and interventions.
Okay. So, as you said earlier, rightly, there are a myriad of tests that we can do for pre-medical screening. It could be hormonal, it could be fertility testing, it could be infectious screening, it could be general information about your health. But most importantly is the genetic one, because the genetic one actually determines who our children are going to be in terms of genetics.
Okay.
And every human being is made up of genes, and that is why we got where genetics from. And it's the genes that make who we are. So we have DNA structures, and in the DNA structures we have specific genes that determine who we are. So in all these things, once we're able to do the genetic screening, we are able to predict the nature of your children in terms of genes, depending on the kind of genetic screen that we are looking at. Okay. So depending on the genes or the genetic screen that we are looking at, we can say that, okay, your children are likely to have this condition or that condition, or may not suffer any condition at all. So it's important that we do these genetic screenings, and especially for people, because one thing about genetics too is that genetics hardly change in terms of our gene makeup. It hardly changes. So once you know it, you can now predict, because it is not likely that it will ever change. Certain genetic properties will never change. Yes. So it's very important for us.
All right. Thank you very much. Because of audience, we don't want to take it for granted. We want to break it down in a way that simply they can understand.
Good.
So what are some of these tests, and using the common day-to-day language and the hidden things that might be there that we don't know about?
Okay. So let me start with, so every would-be couple would like to undertake certain genetic screening. And one of the most common genetic screening that most people will begin to look out for is sickling status, or sickling screening. All right. Now, we know, and we have a condition we call sickle cell anemia, and honestly, it comes with a lot of symptoms that may not be pleasant to the child or to the parent, and it may also come with financial strain. Okay. So basically, everyone wishing to go into marriage should consider sickling screening as very important. Now, sickling screening is all about the nature of our red cells. You see, we have blood in our system, and the red cells have certain proteins in there, which determines whether you have a normal genetic makeup for that particular hemoglobin. That is, the protein is called the hemoglobin. Okay. So the hemoglobin structure is what is going to determine whether you have a normal pattern of hemoglobin or not. So I don't know whether I should go into the
just an overview,
of it. So we have certain conditions, we have certain hemoglobin structures which are very normal, and in most cases we call that AA. Okay. And anybody who walks into a laboratory says, okay, I'm going to do HB electrophoresis or screening for sickling status, will undergo these things so that we'll get to know the nature of your HB structure. So the AA, usually we call that as a normal hemoglobin structures, or the hemoglobin A. But the problem is hemoglobin S. This hemoglobin S is actually an abnormal form of, it's not a normal hemoglobin structure, and cannot carry enough oxygen in the red cells to go through the human body. The hemoglobin carries oxygen to the entire human body. So once it is not of a normal structure, oxygen distribution to the other part of the body will suffer. So once it is not the hemoglobin A type and it is the S type, then it poses a challenge with oxygen carrying capacity, or the ability of the red cells to carry oxygen. We know we all breathe in oxygen,
Yes.
and we need oxygen to live. So if we don't carry enough oxygen to the human body, then we have a problem with other functions of the human body. And the symptoms will be clear enough for other people to see that because of the lack of enough oxygen carrying capacity of your red cells, you'll not be able to achieve a lot of things, or it will predispose you to a lot of conditions which may not be very good.
And which are some of those conditions? Just give us a tip
Okay,
so that people can understand how important this
Very
is and don't play around with it
Very
and think
good.
it's just something that
So
can come and go.
if I should go a little bit in details, though I'm trying to summarize it as well,
Yes.
we'll look at, I said earlier that the AA is a normal gene. We have the S, hemoglobin S. So in the case of sickle cell anemic patient, they have two of these abnormal hemoglobin structures. And this can pose a lot of challenge to the child. How? These children exposed to cold weathers, higher altitudes, in terms of height, very high altitudes, where oxygen is usually low. These children exposed to any trigger that can cause the red cells to malfunction, they are likely to experience what we call episodes, sickle cell episodes, where they begin to complain of waist pains, joint pains, they begin to feel feverish. In fact, some even have the tendency to even fall into a state of coma. And that is how serious that thing will be. And I don't think anybody will want to give birth to a child to suffer from all these conditions. And that is why the genetic screening is very important. Yeah. Because, I made a mention that we have these genes of, if I am AA, we usually have it in pairs. So I am AA, that is normal, but I could be AS. My partner can also be AS.
Right.
Now remember, when two people get married and in the act of birth, procreation, we contribute to one of our genes. So if I am AS and my partner is also AS, I will either bring an A, my partner brings an A. That's one scenario.
Yeah.
It's likely I also bring an S, my partner brings an S.
Yes.
It's likely I bring an A, my partner brings an S. It's likely the vice versa.
Yes.
Now, should it be the case that I bring an S and my partner also brings an S in the process of procreation, then our child is likely to be an SS. So we may be physically normal because I have a normal and an abnormal AS, which may not necessarily be a physical or actually exhibit any physical deformities or physical symptoms. But the SS is where the problem is. Once someone has this SS, then the person is likely to have these episodes from birth to adulthood. And if not managed well, can put financial strain on the family, can bring pressure because, of course, when every now and then your child is getting sick and all that, it's not a pleasant scene. So we want to avoid this. Ideally, we want to avoid it. So how do we avoid it? When people are about to get married, pre-marital genetic screening is very important, especially in the case of sickle cell, so that we avoid our children to suffer conditions that is not of any fault of theirs. But we can actually prevent this from being passed to our children if we know it early and the consequences that brings.
So now we know that two healthy carriers are dating and they want to get married.
Yes.
And when they did the genetic screening, they find out that both of them are AS.
Yes.
Is there something that can be done about it?
Very good. So if I am AS and my partner is also AS, now all things being equal, the likelihood that we are going to have an SS child is about 25%, chance. And that is quite high. We're looking at probability studies. So now, the other ways that we can do is either we advise them of the consequences and the possibilities of all their outcomes.
Okay.
And couples will have to take the decision on their own on whether to go ahead or not, looking at the possibility of the outcomes. And it is up to them to actually now say that, okay, looking at this condition, we may not be genetically compatible. Looking at the fact that when we should actually get married and decide to have children, that 25% of having a child who is fully sickle cell defect will be a problem.
Yeah.
So now it's up to the couples to now make the final decision to go ahead or not. But of course, medically, we may advise you that to avoid anything, it is advisable not to
Get married.
into this.
Okay.
Now, you made mention that is there anything that we can do about it? You see, technology has evolved,
All right.
and if I should say, it has not yet fully ascertained in Ghana yet, but in other parts of the world, in the States and all that, we have a solution that is called CRISPR.
Okay.
Now, this is a genetic retooling to ensure that people who have this condition of SS do not suffer episodes. So that at least you may be SS, but you will still have your peace of mind of not having any crisis in that way. Now, this is a very expensive process. So for us, especially in the Ghanaian setting or in the African setting, this may not really apply to us. Yeah, I know some few people in a clinical study in America and all that, it has come up that people are actually successfully staying on this gene retooling or gene solutions. But honestly speaking, let's also bear in mind that it is also in a trial stage, and until it is really confirmed, and then now comes the economic factor.
Yes.
So something in a way, looking at modernity, something in a way is being done to curb the effect of this SS and its consequences that it brings. But honestly, it is not fully resolved. And number two, the financial burden it can pose on the family is very high. I can even tell you that it could even be more than you actually trying to put up a building or even going for a land to buy and all that. So if that money can be geared towards something more beneficial, the other way, the best way is to prevent. So you see people who are madly in love with each other, trying to get these things done. At a later stage, it becomes very difficult.
Yes.
But the best advice is, if possible, it should
Not
end
to.
there. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's so important because sometimes we get so clouded by love and we forget that there are consequences and they will even affect this love that we declare for each other. Because imagine the burden of running to the hospital all the time, not knowing when they're going to call you, not knowing if this baby will survive, and even if they don't survive, the pain and you watching them go through that pain all the time can be prevented. So it's important for people to always ensure that this test is taken seriously. And it's for us also, for those of us who are in church, spiritual people. I mean, I believe in prayers. I know God is powerful. But let us don't go to the point to say there is nothing God cannot do. We live in a sinful world. And because we live in a sinful world, there are consequences. And some of these ones are this. So don't over-spiritualize it and take the risk. And then this thing now become a prayer point for the rest of your life and having to watch your child with pain. Thank you so much for that. So we move on to some of the other tests. Let's say the general test, I just check on something before we go to the particular ones. Let's do the general test.
Okay. So for general tests, we, as I classified earlier, we have hormonal tests, we have infectious tests, infectious disease screenings. So let me start with the infectious disease screenings.
Okay.
Like you test for any sexually transmitted infections, HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea. These things must be tested.
Okay.
Because especially with HIV, the earlier we know, the better. Though now current treatment modalities has made it possible that mother-to-child transmission is now low at all. So eventually, but if you get to know it early, it is better, so that the advice and treatment given can actually reduce these infections from passing on to your children. So HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, hepatitis B and C, these are also quite serious so far as infections are concerned. So these ones must be screened for would-be couples as pre-medical screening. And also we have the hormonal test. That is mainly for the fertility test. And you know, there are certain hormones that have a role to play. So far as, for example, a woman's menstrual cycle is concerned, and even a man's sperm production is concerned. So once we are married, we know that the most likely thing that follows next may be the want of children. And for the want of children, we can also screen ourselves to know whether our hormonal levels are actually normal or not. Because some people in certain conditions may not have a good balance in hormones, and this can actually affect their effort to actually give birth. So their fertility status is actually affected. So these tests can be done before you actually get married. Also, you have to look at your blood group as well. The blood group may not necessarily be about you not giving birth or not being able to give birth or anything, but it is important you know your blood group, especially for the mother or for the woman, so that in terms of pregnancy, it plays a very critical role. And then the information that the health practitioners will get from that can help them to prevent further consequences from a particular kind of blood group. So in blood grouping, the negative positivity, then we have to know it.
Okay.
Once we know it, it will help us to prevent any consequences that comes with it during pregnancy.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to take them one after the
Okay,
other so
sure.
we can break them
Right.
properly. So the infectious screening,
Yeah.
we talked about HIV and AIDS. We talked about gonorrhea, syphilis. Even though people think that it's not very common, it has adverse effect on our health. If you can just break down those ones, what are the effects of having gonorrhea untreated and passing it on to your child, or infecting your partner, and also talking about the syphilis, if you can help us with that.
Right. So one major thing, any STI which is not treated has the capacity to either affect the woman mainly,
Okay.
also the man as well, and the unborn child, and even after birth. Now, let me take for the woman. Gonorrhea, it could be gonorrhea, it could be syphilis, it could be anything. If left untreated for a long time, can affect their fertility as well. In fact, certain infections can cause pelvic inflammatory conditions. Certain conditions, you know, the pelvic, the fallopian tube of the woman is where fertilization occurs.
Yes.
Now, at that particular place, once there is infection or inflammation at that particular place, it can prevent fertilization. So it may affect your fertility status. So you may be trying to give birth, or you may be trying to, in your effort to actually procreate, you may not be able to do that. So if you don't know, you may not know. You may have gonorrhea, maybe, and some of them, we should also state that, especially in syphilis, in the early stages, it can be asymptomatic. That means it doesn't show any symptom.
Okay.
And you may just think, okay, I'm fine, till it gets serious. So some of these conditions, and if you don't, you also realize the symptoms. Gonorrhea, for example, you have a discharge, which is very foul and it's not usual. These things, once you observe them, and you know you are sexually active, especially, you should be able to get tested. Because out of it, if not treated, can affect your womb, can affect your fallopian tube, can affect your effort to give birth. And that is one thing about these infections, especially gonorrhea, syphilis.
Okay.
So in as much as we have to, and also about chlamydia, we have a condition called chlamydia. Now, chlamydia too can affect the woman and affect the unborn child as well, especially during the time of childbirth. If you don't take care, the child can come and then he may have chlamydia infected. I mean, the child will be infected with chlamydia. And that typical sign will be that the child may, in fact, the chlamydia can affect the eyes and certain part of the body of the child. And if not treated, the child can have consequences from infection, which can lead to death. Wow. Yes. So some of these things, though we sometimes try to downplay them, could be as serious as ever. But thankfully, all these infections have a solution. All these STIs, In fact, I would say 99.9% of them are fully treatable. So that right from there, once detected early, we can treat it, and then the people will have their way to it. And for the man too, every other thing, including sperm production, can also be affected with all these infections.
Yeah.
Once a man is affected, his sexual organ is affected, if not treated, can distort sperm production, can also distort discharge of sperms, can also affect your fertility. And even your general body health. It can have multifactorial organ damage due to this. In fact, syphilis can even damage other important organs, even as far as to the kidney and the liver. Wow. We have cases where syphilis can actually destroy the tertiary form of syphilis, and that can get very serious. So, depending on the condition that you have, the infectious diseases you have, it must be detected early and treated to avoid possible complications.
Thank you so much, Doc. I'm just sitting here listening. Now that we have an age that a lot of people are sexually active, and doing what we do at Sex in the Temple, get to understand that most people, most men here where we are, don't like to use any protection. And they prefer just going it without protection. And so imagine a time and a place where people are having multiple partners from one place to another. And if there's a discharge, they'll just go over the counter, buy something, and they drink and they think it's okay. But what we are saying here is that if we treat this as something just trivial, the consequences will be severe. And so for people who might be sexually engaged already, even before they get to the place of getting married, it is very important. Because they might end up not even getting married, but they have passed the infection now. And this person doesn't know that I'm infected. They pass it on to another person. By the time they meet their real partner, they've got a backlog of so much infection that they are just a recipe for disasters, like a ticking time bomb. And that person will wholesomely embrace them, get married. And also religion also plays a part here. I remember growing up, I don't hear these things. They'll just look and say, oh, he's healthy, he's young, he's very active in church, he's a good man, let's pray for them. And they get married. But the genetic screening, it's not done. The infectious screening to read out any sexually transmitted infection is not done. So you have now a marriage where it started in the wrong foot already when it comes to their well-being. And when the burden comes now, we come back to God and start praying. When we could have done something the right thing, do something about it. So we are saying to all those who are listening that it is important. Just imagine in Africa, in our background now, as a woman, they say, I think most of the things that they will say, they will just say you have aborted, that's why you can conceive. But what if it's the complication of gonorrhea? And then we keep moving from one hospital to another. And then from one prayer camp to another prayer camp. There's nothing God cannot do. I'm not watering down this. I believe God and I trust Him. But I know that God also gives us wisdom to make healthy choices and decisions. So thank you so much for that. We are going to do one more, and then we go for a break, and then we come back, and then we can continue this session. So you talked about the hormonal thing. It affects the men, affects the women. Can you just give us a better understanding, if you can just break it down for us, why this is important, and how does it affect, and what can be done about it?
All right. So before I go to the hormonal, I think for the infectious one, I left one, the hepatitis B and C.
Let
me just quickly do that, then I come.
It's okay.
So hepatitis B and C actually is also an infectious thing that can also cause problems. It can also cause damage your liver, and you know the liver is a very important organ in the human body. It's what detoxifies the human body. Is a site of synthesis or production of a lot of proteins and good things that the body needs. Now, when the liver is malfunctioning due to hepatitis B or C infections, then the liver begins to fail. And these things, once there's a liver failure, which can happen over a long period of exposure to these viruses, then it can ultimately lead to death. So we don't want to joke with hepatitis B and C. That's why for some time now, people have been advocating for, the health practitioners have been advocating for the fact that everybody should get immunized or vaccinated against hepatitis B and C. In fact, right from the scratch, we need to engage people who have not vaccinated to do so.
All right.
But first of all, even before you vaccinate, the test must be done.
Yeah.
And even if the person has the condition, there are treatment modalities
Okay.
to make sure that the person lives a normal, healthy life. So hepatitis B and C is also very important. So for us, we are considering premarital screening.
Okay,
Now,
so doctor, before you go there, so if I've done the test already, I didn't have, but they gave me vaccine
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
So that means even if you don't have any traces of that, they just give you the
Yes,
vaccine.
so ideally, vaccines are given to those who do not have it.
Yeah, they gave me some.
Yes. So to avoid further encounter with the condition, so that the next time your body encounters the condition, it is able to fight it better. So
Okay.
that is the principle of vaccination.
Okay.
So vaccination, we may not have the condition, but once I'm exposed to the condition in the near future, my body, my antibodies, the substances responsible for fighting infections will be able to fight that infection and conquer that particular infection. So once you don't have the hepatitis B, you get vaccinated as soon as possible, and then we move, towards a healthier choice. But even if you have it, there are treatment modalities so that the infection will be controlled.
It will
or
not
even
be cured.
Yes, in most cases, it may not be cured completely, but it can be managed to the extent that you will be able to live your normal, healthy life. In certain cases, the medication can even lower the viral load,
Okay.
the viral load of the hepatitis B to a very insignificant amount that eventually may not even be transmissible or may not even show any signs or symptoms.
Okay.
So management of the condition is very, very important once you have the condition. And it is not a cause for alarm. Everyone living hepatitis B and C with treatment can live a normal, healthy life. And therefore, people who have it should be encouraged to take their medications when necessary. And those who may not have even screened for it at all should be able to screen for it, especially when going in for these premarital tests.
So is it transferable through kissing, saliva?
Yeah, so the mode of transmission is actually through, number one, sexual contact. You can easily get it from there. Minimally, you could get it from saliva as well. So through deep kissing especially.
Okay.
Yes, so the deep kissing, you can have it through that. And usually it is not easily transferred through just a matter of hugging.
Okay.
I can hug someone, that should be fine. But the point is, once there is a heavy contact with fluid,
Okay.
either from saliva, either from sexual intercourse, or even blood transfusion, any of these are the major routes for this transmission and should be avoided. If the person has the condition. So when someone is in need of blood and they have to get the blood for the person. Once the blood which is being transfused is screened and hepatitis B in there, they wouldn't have to give it to that person, and they would not give it to that person per the protocols.
Okay.
So eventually, it's also part of blood transfusion protocols, screening protocols. Now, ideally, if you are positive and you have not been on medication, there's a very strong likelihood that you're going to pass it to your partner and even to your offspring, and that is quite dangerous. So we don't want to get there. And I said the good news is that almost all the infectious conditions are well treated and managed to the extent that you may not even have to worry about it.
Yeah, the reason why I asked for the kissing is like some people may say that we are not intimate sexually, but we're kissing.
Yes.
So that's why I asked
Very
for
well,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like I said, this is just the beginning of what we are doing in Sex in the Temple. We'll come back. Do me a favor. Keep watching. Subscribe to our channel. And this is Sex in the Temple. My name is Monique.